Hello everyone, this is Kroda giving you an update on the patch notes and my current thoughts about them. For patch 1.3.3, they are currently up on the playtest realm. This is April 25th. There may be new 1.3.3 patches or updates later. And if you did not hear, one of the things that Blizzard was trying to address was that they are currently trying to address Protoss versus Protoss 4-gate strategies. Now, let me just go ahead and read over a couple of the changes, and then I'll go back and try to talk about what I think they're doing right, what I think they're doing wrong. Not that there's anything really wrong about Blizzard. I love you, Blizzard. But yeah, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and the just general direction I feel, and then my own suggestions. Now, first of all, Protoss Archons are now a massive unit. I don't know how many times we've asked for this, and the community has just asked that Archons be a massive unit. Archons are now not going to be slowed down by the concussive shells naturally. That makes a lot of sense. So Archons are now going to be effective against Bio Balls. So High Templar is effective against Bio Balls, and then merging into an Archon also effective against Bio Balls as well. It's also going to be beneficial because they can break down force fields. The only other possible change would be in a 2v2 or multiplayer setting where a Graviton Beam picks up an Archon. And actually, no, you can't actually Graviton Beam a massive unit, can you? Okay, never mind then. Void Rays dealing additional damage to an Archon. There you go. Another change there. I don't know who really tries to use Void Rays to counter Archons, but yeah, not much of a change there. Secondly, the pylon power radius has been decreased from 7.5 to 6.5. This is to address the ability that Protoss units were able to warp in units onto a high ground while being out of range from standard range units. So units like Marines couldn't shoot at a pylon even though units could be warped in onto that high ground. That was causing some issues. This is all trying to challenge that 4-gate. Excuse me. Also, the ability to be able to spot that pylon much more easily. That pylon now needs to be closer to that cliff in order to warp in. Thirdly, the cybernetics core, the warpgate research time has now been increased from 140 to 180. Just like Stimpack got the nerf bat last time around, the research warpgate time is now increased to 180 seconds, and as anyone will tell you, that is a very long amount of time, even if you try to chrono boost it. Now, getting on to the more juicy things, the sentry train time has now been decreased from 42 to 37. Stalker, same thing. Zealot, same thing as well. So the gateway units are now going to be able to come out a little bit more quickly. I'll get back to this, but yeah, there's a lot of things right and wrong with this, and I will get back to it. Finally, let's go on to the Terran. Ghost now changed from 150 to 200. I love this change. One of the reasons why I was thinking about this last night before I even saw the patch notes was that ghosts are very difficult to use just because trying to train ghost early in the game slowed down your tech so much. So having the ghost now go from 150 to 200 does help the ghost a lot, and being able to balance out, being able to train up additional or continue that tech path that you want to go down while getting those ghosts for those EMP shockwaves. Ghosts probably weren't seen as much utilization as we would like to see. My thought process on this is if the sentry costs 50 minerals and 100 gas, and the sentries are very good. It's essentially a ground-based casting unit that also has an attack as well. Why not make the ghost the same thing? Also 100 gas. It's not strictly a pure caster unit. It can use snipe, but yeah, I think this change is for the better. I think Ghost will see more play. I think it will be much more effective against that Protoss, Stalker, Colossus, Zealot, Immortal Ball that we've been seeing a lot. And in general, anything where casters are encouraged to be used, I like to lean towards that way, as casters generally take more skill to use, and not, you just simply can't A attack with the unit. I know Ghost you can A attack with, but that's a very expensive unit to just simply A attack with. Finally, Salvage has been reduced from 100% return rate down to 75%. something that definitely needed to be added. I actually hoped that like salvage is something that could actually be transferred to some of the other buildings as well in Terran. Being able to salvage refineries once they're out of gas would be a nice touch, or being able to just salvage buildings in general. But let's just leave it that at bunkers. I know I'm Terran. That's a more of like a wish, like ooh, let's make Terran more broken. That's not the case. It's just a function or a feature I would like to see go across multiple buildings. But for bunkers, very, very happy with the fact that it is now only going to return 75 minerals as opposed to 100. Bunkers are essentially not free, but they are still very cost effective. Finally, Zerg Spore Crawlers, the root time decreased from 12 down to 6, a change that definitely needed to come into play. One of the reasons why the root time was increased was that spine crawler rushes were becoming very, very popular during the beta and during the early portion of the game, where a player could just like build spine crawlers and then walk them across the map, reroute them, and 6 seconds to just stair step. That's almost like unsieging and resieging your tanks, because well, actually, that is exactly like unsieging and resieging tanks. 3 seconds to unsiege, 3 seconds to resiege. So before, a spine crawler was essentially a tank that didn't cost gas with a range of 7. Very, very powerful. So, yeah. Now let's go back to the main topic of issue, gateways and 4-gate rushes. Now, I have been talking, or I did write to someone at Blizzard, and I was trying to bounce ideas off of the 4-gate and how to make it a little bit more viable. One of the problems with changing warp gate in general is that by changing the warp gate ability, and trying to make it so that Protoss versus Protoss doesn't rely on a 4-gate, is that you make the race as a whole much more weak against the other races. You know, if you try to balance PvP a little bit more, trying to diversify it, you may make it all of a sudden too easy for the other races to overtake them. Now, Blizzard decided to go down the route of decreasing the build time across the board for all tier 1 and tier 1.5 gateway units. Zealots now down to 33 seconds, Stalkers 37, Sentries 37. This is not the direction I want to see them go. The reason why is, one of the reasons why they increased the Zealot from 33 to 38 was blind Zealot rushes, especially on maps like the TSL or the GSL version of Metalopolis, where you know that it's always going to be a cross spawn. A Protoss player can easily just set up a proxy pylon in the gold mineral on the opposite side of the map, and then go double proxy gateway, and with 2 Zealots coming inside your base very, very quickly, it's going to be very difficult to stop. To wrap your head around how fast a Zealot can come out now, a chrono boosted Zealot is actually faster to train than a Marine. So that is how fast a Zealot can come out. A chrono boosted Zealot comes out faster than one Marine. So Zerg players who need spine crawlers, who want to do fast expansions, it's not going to work. It's really going to break down a lot of that early game balance, and just knowing that your opponent can blind proxy rush you is going to change a lot on how you play against Protoss. So that's not the direction I wanted to see it go. The suggestion that I had was, first, Warpgate research, leave it at 140. It's fine. Secondly, change how the gateway and warp gate mechanics work. Gateway build times, leave everything the same for now, 42, 42, 38 for the Sentry, Stalker, and Zealot. Next, once you have the ability to upgrade your gateways, so in your warp gate research, in addition to allowing your warp gates, in addition to allowing to change your gateways into warp gates, it reduces the build time for your Sentries, Stalkers, and Zealots by 10. So what does that look like? It would mean that your Sentries take 32 seconds to train, your Stalkers 32 seconds to train, and your Zealots 28 seconds to train from a gateway, if you have the Warp Gate research. If you decide to upgrade and convert your gateway into a Warp Gate, then the cooldowns become 42, 42, 38. This actually creates some tension between choosing whether or not you go warp gate or gateway. There's a benefit by keeping it in a gateway in that you can build your units faster, but your units do not come out front loaded, and you cannot deploy them anywhere in the field. If you use the warp gate ability, you can deploy them anywhere in the field, and you can get your units to your other expansions that are further away. but you do not have, but it takes longer for that cooldown to continually build your army. And what this is going to do is it's going to put some tension in between gateways and warp gates. And then you would slowly transition into the warp gate abilities. Right now, 100% of the Protoss players out there, the instant that that warp gate ability is done, they automatically convert all their gateways to their warp gates. Besides the fact that they front load how fast their units are trained, their cooldown is also 10 seconds faster. So why wouldn't you naturally just try to go into the warp gate? So instead of having all players go warp gate into or gateway into warp gate, you know, drop the cooldown or drop the training time on the gateway once the warp gate research is completed, and then if you do try to go back into the warp gate, increase the cooldown. How this is going to help 4-gate Protoss. Now, the reason why it's going to help 4-gate Protoss is that the Protoss who is 4-gating another Protoss who is not trying to do that 4-gate push, one of the reasons why that Protoss is so strong is by setting up a proxy pylon, they kind of move that home field advantage and are able to train units faster. If the Protoss player isn't converting his gateways into warp gates, he can actually train units more quickly and he can get those units out faster. So he still has home field what I call home field advantage in being able to get those units out quickly enough to fend off that attack. So after say two round of warp gate units, you could actually train about 3 sets of units off of the gateways if you also include the 10 seconds of time it normally takes to upgrade a gateway to a warp gate. I know that it's kind of difficult to wrap up in your head. I'll try to or maybe it's a little bit difficult. I don't think it's that difficult. And I think it actually makes a lot of sense to put a little bit of tension in between the gateway and the warp gate research. But let me know what you guys think. I know that in the end, in the late game, most players will leave all of their gateways or convert all of their gateways into warp gates because of the ability to deploy anywhere on the field, the ability to deploy Dark Templars, and the ability to front load and train High Templars so that the instant the High Templar is out, it's actually starting to gain energy rather than trying to train a High Templar in a gateway. It would be quote unquote faster on the cooldown period, but you really want energy on that High Templar. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Leave your comments. I know this was a rather long patch notes discussion, but I really think that they're getting really close with the gateway research and the warp gate, and I think by just putting a little bit of tension right there between choosing whether or not to upgrade to a warp gate, it would really balance things out. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in your comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed 1.3.3 Playtest Realm patch notes from April 25th.